This is weird. And yeah, it's been a while, but hello everybody. Sergeant X here. It's been a while since I've posted anything on XFPS, but you obviously know that Battlefield 2042 has entered its pre-launch week where people who pre-order the Gold Edition or have the Xbox Game Pass or the EA Play Pass can play the game early. And I gotta say, I feel very duped into getting this. I fell for it. I fell for the, whatever you want to call it. It's almost borderline scam, the way I can feel sometimes. I have a myriad of problems with this game's release, and it has nothing to do with the bugs, because bugs,
I can handle.
it's the content. And that's weird to say because it's sad to see us take such a step back in terms of game flow, gameplay, and just overall feeling of Battlefield control. It's weird to say because it feels more like Battlefield 4.5 than anything else. And that's weird to say again. I'm going to repeat myself a bunch here just because I'm just flabbergasted on how they managed to do this, because from what I thought they were doing, I thought they were building off of how Battlefield 5 was meant to play. And let me tell you, I'm still a big fan of Battlefield 5. And it's not just because of all the post-launch content updates and how much it has, and the fact that it has 90 gigabytes of data taken up just to download the game is one thing, and Battlefield 2042 only takes up like 42 gigabytes. That has nothing to do with it. In fact, I thought I was almost impressed to see how much content they technically packed together into 43 gigabytes, or 42, I can't remember, on release day, because they have Battlefield Portal. They had to find a way to cram 1942 content, Bad Company 2 content, and Battlefield 3 content, along with 2042's specialist stuff and maps, all into one game mode. I'm surprised they managed to get the game as small as it did, but it comes at a cost. I'm going to have to tell you off and on. One of the first things is visually, I feel like it's a huge downgrade from 5. And that's weird to say just in the fact that it's just a lot of the buildings are more simplistic in design. There's no like intimate detail other than the fact that the ground has like parallax and stuff like that. Because in 5, you had dirt everywhere, and that's one compliment it had to the game. They took advantage of the tessellation, and the dirt made it look really, really good, especially if you cranked up the settings. In 2042, there's a lot of flat geometry just because of the nature of the buildings. They're angular, they're futuristic looking. It's an easy way to get a lot of area covered cheaply, and that's sad to say that it doesn't really benefit from it unless they're doing something really weird with the engine, because the performance that I'm getting is absolutely abysmal compared to Battlefield 5. And honestly, it doesn't look like it's reaping the rewards of any visual gain. It's hard for me to describe because I'm thinking of random words on the fly while my brain's going fast forward on a whole bunch of different reasons why I'm disappointed with the game. But we're still going to talk about the performance measures, because I play Battlefield 5 with no ray tracing. I get that game at 133% resolution of 1080p, so it's like between 1440p and 1080p to increase the sharpness a little. I get almost 150 frames on my 3080 with that thing. In Battlefield 2042, I don't have the option to super sample my image. I only have the option to do DLSS performance. And the sad thing is that doesn't even really do anything, because I'm only getting up to like 90 FPS unless I'm looking at the sky. And it has nothing to do with like GPU limitations, because I'm looking at my performance monitor and I'm only getting like 60% GPU utilization. I'm not even getting like 100% CPU. Like, I'm not being bottlenecked by my CPU. I'm not being bottlenecked by my GPU. It just looks like the game is just refusing to use all of the resources it can use. And that alone is baffling in terms of performance, especially when you look at the visuals. And there are moments where things look really, really good, and then there are moments where it's like, that was part of the game? Why? One of my best examples is the look and the feel of the 1942 characters. Not contrary to popular belief. Why was I going to try and say that? If you pay just 2 seconds of attention, especially if you play Battlefield 5, and you look at the models of 1942, you can tell they are heavily based off of the characters that were in that game. They have names in Battlefield 5, and I can probably name a few of them off the top of my head. There's Christian, there's Frank, there's Edward, there's Adam, there's Charlie, there's some of the German versions of their characters, Gunter, Peter. There's all those characters are there as models as the 1942 characters, but the weird thing is they look visually downgraded. Like, their skin textures lost some like visual quality, unless I have not zooming in enough, because I'm going through their characters, selector screen, which I'm probably gonna have to add in post. But showing that they don't look nowhere near as polished as they do in 5, which is extremely bizarre because it looks like those assets are almost literally straight ripped from Battlefield 5. The other guys look pretty good, but that's usually because they're obscuring their faces. That's the biggest component of a soldier, is the look and design of them. And in 1942, World War II, you really only have their helmet, their uniform, and their head to go off of. And they did an excellent job of that in Battlefield 5, so I don't know why it looks like this in 2042 in the portal mode. It's confusing. Moving on to the other area, 2042, the specialists are pretty cool. They are a little awkward to see them on both sides, but if you kind of read the lore of 2042, this somewhat makes sense, because apparently every specialist in the game is a freelance special forces team, which means they can be hired by any country to do the bidding of that country, which is why you see them pit against each other. It's just weird when you see multiple McKays running around, or Rao, or I'm trying to learn their names right now, trying to get them down in my head. I'm picking up my favorites, like Angel. There's a whole bunch of him running around because he's so versatile. The Mexican ballistic shields guy is running all over the place, despite the fact that his shield doesn't even work on release. They don't tell us why the shield isn't working. We don't know if it doesn't work at all, or it works so well it glitches you and you become invincible. We have no idea why, but they said they disabled it. So he's a borked character on release, and he's not really fun to play as, and you can't really unlock anything from him because a lot of his challenges have to deal with using the shield. So if you can't use the shield, why play as him? It's surprising to see how many people still play as him when I play online. Other than that, I still feel like they're mostly balanced. The only guy I've had problems with in the game, and it's not 100% just his fault, it's more of the sound design, is McKay, and that's because he has a grapple, which means you literally don't see him coming if you aren't paying attention enough. And as far as I can tell, I know it's literally a clusterfuck in terms of the scale of war, but you don't hear anything other than gunfire, tank shots, and occasionally guys sprinting like fucking crazy, because the tactical sprint makes your footsteps insanely loud, and as long as you don't use that, you actually can gain somewhat of a, I was about to say visual, a sound advantage when you're trying to flank people. And I'm learning that. I'm learning when to use that and stuff to flank a couple of soldiers when usually I can't really take out more than one because my aim is bad in that, but that's usually because the performance isn't as smooth. I get my performance above 60 FPS on high, on medium, on ultra. They're all kind of the same frame rate, which is why it's weird getting this weird GPU limitation. I kept thinking it was drivers, but I have the special drivers for the game. That's not fixing it. But going back on the smoothness, something about it just does not feel right. And I don't know if it's because I'm playing in borderless mode or full screen. Because I have the same problem with Apex Legends. When I play Apex Legends, I have to play in full screen to actually take advantage of my 165 Hz monitor. It just doesn't feel like 165 Hz unless I'm in full screen mode. I thought this wouldn't be the case with 2042 because in Battlefield 5, I play in borderless mode, and I can feel 165 frames per second on that, especially when I turn down the resolution just a smidge, or turn down the settings just a smidge, because I do that all the time, because I played so much of it. So it's weird to see that doesn't affect anything. It still feels like it's at half refresh rate, even when I'm getting 80, 90 FPS, and I don't know if it's just because the way the gunplay feels, the movement feels, maybe I have to crank my sensitivity up. I know I had to crank the FOV up. There's a whole myriad of problems with that. People are already complaining about the controls of the pilots because helicopter controls and jet controls are the same, while in older battlefields they are whole separate control schemes, especially if you're the kind of guy who likes to customize those controls, I can see why you're complaining. Now, I'm not much of a vehicle guy, and I haven't really been anything more than a tank or a hovercraft for more than 5 minutes in the game. I can still see why people complain about those, limitations. And speaking of limitations, the movement is way more limited. It's, again, extremely bizarre that we took 5 and then moved back to Battlefield 4 style movement. I thought it would have been cool to have the type of not cinematic, but like action-y style movement of 5, where you had your crouch running, you had your roll landing, or if you press the crouch button right when you land, you mitigated some of the fall damage, or all of it, depending on how high you were, by rolling. It was really cool and cinematic, especially if you were like jumping down to revive a fallen teammate or something, and you just had that flexibility of movement. They still kind of have the jumping through windows mechanic of 5. It just doesn't feel as smooth as 5. It feels more like in between 4 and 20, 4 and 5. That's why I call this game Battlefield 4.5. It feels like they regressed back to the 4 style of play for everybody else who hated 5 and completely neglected all the features of 5 and tried to build off from there. And that's why I'm just sad. I was expecting them to build off 5 this whole time. I thought it'd be Battlefield 5 movement and everything, but set in the future with cool future guns, missiles, gadgets and gizmos and everything like that. And it's weird to see so much of that missing, because I'm trying to remember what it was like when Battlefield 4 launched. That game had tons of weapons. That thing had a myriad of ways to take out vehicles, aircraft, and other things that you don't want to be in the map. In Battlefield 2042, we have one rocket launcher, one anti-aircraft rocket launcher, a couple of mines, and the repair tool, and C4. That's it. And half the time, the recoilless bazooka, or whatever you want to call it, the M5, I can't even remember the name because it's supposed to be a futuristic version of something, doesn't lock on. You literally need an attachment you unlock way later in the game, I think, to even lock on to these guys in the first place. And it's just sad to see that be the case. The fact that leveling up is very slow, is very weird, and so much of the game is fallen behind off your selection here. Everyone literally is the same as soon as the game came out. All the M5s were there. All the SMGs were the same. Everybody had the same sniper. It was bizarre, and I don't remember how they were launched. I can't 100% remember how 5 launched, but I could definitely tell 4 had a selection of weapons you can actually choose from to at least make the launch of the game diverse, and 2042 didn't have any of that. You already had your 6 specialists or something like that. 2 were already locked because you have to level them up, so everybody was very, very similar. I know this is going to change as long as the game goes on, and that's a bad thing to say because we don't want to wait to have the game fixed later. Performance issues, lack of content, even though Battlefield Portal is probably where they focused on it, because there's way more weapons in Battlefield 3. 3's content, and Bad Company 2. There's kind of like a mismatch of weapons you can play in there, but there's way more weapons in that than there are in 2042, which is weird because you'd think 2042 would be the focus. And everybody knows that Portal is probably going to be the thing that keeps this game alive in the long run, which is probably why they focused more on that to a certain degree. But you named the game 2042. You should put the good chunk of content there. I mean, moving on to Portal, it's weird. I've messed and dabbled with the settings, which, by the way, it's really weird, bizarre. That's the key word of this whole analyzation. That's a weird word. This whole, I wouldn't call it review because I'm not done playing it for a while. I'm only like level 15. But it's weird to see the rule builder not in the game. You have to go to the website to even make the rules the game mode you want to play to begin with. And it's just why. That reminds me of having the server browser being a web browser in Battlefield 4. And then they finally mitigated that during the game's end of life, and Battlefield 1 was coming out. So you can't really make your own game in the game. You have to go to your browser. I mean, it's just Alt-Tab. It's just pain in the butt, especially if you have an account and you have to save your settings or whatever. I've never saved the game I was making, but I was trying to go through the rule sets, and it looked like you can't do a lot of the things the trailer tried to describe that you could do. First example was, in the trailer, the Mexican ballistics guy, I'm mad I don't remember his name, shot the tracer dart gun from Bad Company 2 at the Spitfire. As far as I can tell, with me messing with the rule set, you can't do that. You can't have a guy from 2042 use Bad Company 2 weapons, unless you probably pick them up off their dead body. But this is just another contention of conflict of interest, because you can't even have multiple factions on one team. You can only have one era versus another era. So it could be Bad Company 2 versus Bad Company 2, Bad Company 2 versus World War II, etc., etc. But you can't have a mishmash of teams. You can't have World War II and 2042 versus Bad Company 2. You know, that it's not possible. So the whole thing in the trailer where they had three different factions playing against three types of factions of weapons and eras all colliding with each other, I couldn't do that. And I'd have to learn the editor again, but either it has to be really complicated to get that to work, but I feel like it should be a way where you just click a button and it says enable all weapons from all eras, because it'd be cool to see 2042 people with like Battlefield 3 weapons. It opened the game up to just so much more, and especially live up to what you saw in the trailer. This is why I loved the trailer. It's just weird to see me not be able to realize what was on it, given the fact that you were advertised to do it in the first place. So, disappointed in that. Moving on towards Portal still, that's the only way you can find and browse servers or custom servers. Battlefield 2042, over in its all-out war, which is just 2042's default rule set, you can't search... Oh, see my nose. You know what? I'm taking this off. There we go. I don't know. You're probably just going to see gameplay the whole time. Anyway, I just had that on for aesthetic design for the 2042 feel. But you can't browse for official servers in all-out warfare. You can only browse for custom servers in Portal, and that was the only way I could even get into a match in the first place for a while, because people were having problems where they couldn't like parse the data or something. It was some weird error message when you tried to load into an all-out warfare mode, and you couldn't just load into any game. So the only way I could play 2042 was to go into Portal, find a server that was 2042's rule set, and join it. And there were even some scenarios where you didn't level up your weapons at all because of the type of custom rules. So that kind of ruined the fun in playing in that server for a while. It had a high ticket number and everything, but for some reason my weapons weren't leveling. I only got XP for finishing the match, which was like a 60-minute match with 8,000 tickets. That was a long time to finish that match. I had friends that I played with that helped us, get that, bear through it. It was fun. It's just sad to see I wasn't really making any progress. That's a whole myriad of problems that we have with the Portal mode. It was cool to see some custom servers where they were just playing all World War II people, but in all the maps. So I was in Kaleidoscope, I think is the map, and I was running around as a German soldier with German vehicles. It was fun. And then there's some douchebags who have those servers called XP farms where you join it in thinking you can earn some easy XP, because the best way to earn XP is to kill a bunch of people in one go. But then you find out him and his buddies are on one team on a strictly you need the password to get on that side of the team, while you're a defenseless German soldier with nothing but dynamite packs that take 6 seconds to detonate, while they sit there and spray at you with freaking jets. Yeah, that was more of just bait, and the game lets you do that, so you just have to be aware. Don't fall for those traps. My selfish, needs to want to level up maybe a little faster overwhelmed me, and I bit the bullet on that, but beware of those. That's more of a community problem than anything else, but a problem in the game nonetheless. Looking at other problems, I can't see other people's ping. That pisses me off. I can see my ping by pressing tab. It's over in the top right corner. And every game I've been in, I've made sure, especially in the Portal mode, to make sure I had decent ping, but you can't really tell anybody else. Other than the fact that if you get shot behind a wall after moving behind cover, you can probably assume their ping is pretty high because the game sucked their wiener so freaking hard that they gave them the hit instead of you dodging the bullet by taking behind cover. It's a problem that most modern games have, but I really wish we had a way to you had a ping limit for every server in the game, because I don't want people with 300 ping killing me in the game constantly because they're literally abusing their ping whether they know it or not. Another myriad of problems, you can't really tell. The HUD is hard enough to tell who's on whose team and who's doing what alone. At least things worked way better than the beta, but still are very rudimentary and simplistic to a fault. Again, I thought 5, they would have just built it off their ping system on there, and they kind of do, but it's still not complicated enough to let you take advantage of, giving the right information to your teammates. And what I mean by that is the best example would be, I'm the squad leader, and I want everyone to move to the B1 flag. In Battlefield 5, you just hold Q, and it brings up this little bottom menu to tell you what flag you want to order them to do that. That, as far as I can tell, is not in 2042. You have to look at it and hope you're not pinging a location, which I've heard people aren't even seeing the pings, so you're saying where they are, but your teammates or your squad mates don't see them. Me and one of my buddies were trying to confirm this because we were having a hard time saying, oh, he's over there, and we would ping it, and I'm like, where? You didn't ping anything. I just heard your guy say, disregard that. That could be a bug in itself, too, because for some reason, every time I ping something, my guy says the canceled ping line, like if he already pinged something and canceled it. It's really weird. I'd have to play a clip of it for you to get what I'm saying.
Cancel that.
But that seems to be not working 100%. It only works client-side as far as I can tell. So giving orders is a pain in the butt. At least requesting ammo and medics are still kind of universally the same as every Battlefield ever. So that's decent. A good segue into that is squad play is really hard with 128 players running across the map. And that's more of a community thing too, but it's not fun to see everybody, you're open in the clear. I can't voice chat as far as I can tell. I don't even know if it's in the game. I think I watched a video where you can't voice chat, and your team chat, where you type into chat where people, to communicate with people is only your side of the team, which kind of makes sense with how large 128 players chatting all over the place could be, but it takes a big community factor out of the game. You can't tell your enemy teammates who kicked your ass to be sportsmanlike and have a good game, or give them shit, or do the GG easy trolley thing. You can't do that. They won't see it. So that's kind of sad to see that kind of downgrade. Looking back at animations, reloading is pretty cool. It's slow, but like Modern Warfare style flashy is probably the best way I can say. They're fun to look at, but it sucks when they take a while, and I could roll with it. It's just I've only seen the SMG reload and the M5A1 because those are the only weapons I have, and it takes 800 years to unlock anything else. I think I finally unlocked the shotgun, and that's the only other gun I've unlocked at this time because they're locked so far away. They went to like, I can't remember. It's so mad that I can't remember the beginning stages of Battlefield 5, but I felt like the unlocking process of that was much faster, and they were tied to the class system, which I kind of miss. That's another whole problem, but we're going to talk about that later. That I miss. Oh, you want to unlock all the snipers really quickly? Play Recon for a while. I reached level 20 on Battlefield 5 in no time, where you unlocked all the base content. Snipers. There were actually 5 or 6 snipers at launch in that game. There's like 3 or 4. Not counting the marksman weapons for the sniper class. There's 3 or 4 SMGs in 2042. There's 3 or 4 assault rifles. There's only like 22 weapons as far as I can remember. And I think that might be counting the grenade launchers and gadgets. So that's pretty sad. The pistol selection is horribly small. My brain is going all over the place because it's like, well, you could have had like a cool feature where in 2042, if you reached a high enough level, you could use Battlefield 3's weapons because it's only like 30 years in the future. Why wouldn't people be running around still with some P90s and some 1911s and stuff like that? There's literally no reason why to restrict those kind of arrow-style weapons in the 2042 era. It doesn't make sense to me, and it would be a cool way to flash out some of the content without having to restrict you to strictly playing a Battlefield 3 faction. But that's just a whole myriad of problems that hopefully they can unlock or let you choose to do in a future update. So that's weapons in a nutshell for me. The whole press T to look and change your scope things is cool. It's awesome. I like how you... It's probably just the scope part I like more than changing the barrels, because like in real life you could just go take off a barrel, slap another one on there in relatively short time in real life. So changing scopes on the fly was cool. Changing ammo types is weird, but it's a neat feature. The only problem is you need to grind the ever-living fuck out of those fucking weapons to even get those options in the first place. And that's quite sad. I thought maybe they would have like an easier XP system for the weapon that you kind of would have done in Battlefield 5. I hate that I'm going back to this because like the more and more you think about it, 5 was way better than you thought it was, especially that if you're a guy coming off of a big Battlefield 4 fan and you don't know a lot of Battlefield 5, it was actually more better than a lot of the community like set it out to be. But in order to unlock the last like ammo type for one of my SMGs, you have to get like 600 kills with that weapon to even get it. And at that point, you probably don't even want to use the weapon anymore. 600 kills is a lot of kills. That's how you get like a gold medal for the weapon in Battlefield 5. You'd have to literally strictly only play that weapon for weeks. Unless you're playing like a grindy, easy kill game mode like Operation Underground or something. So, I mean, I was even doing a challenge at one point where I wanted to get all the weapons at the gold dog tag medal, because that's how you earn dog tags in Battlefield 5. I got like 80% of the weapons done by the end of the life of the game, and now we're playing 2042, where in order to even get the basic attachment, you have to play that much with that weapon to begin with. So, I guess that's one way to make the weapons feel more diverse is... After you grind with the base weapon for 80 billion years, you can create a weird hybrid gun that has like SMG bullets with an extended heavy barrel assault rifle hybrid weird amalgamation, which doesn't really matter in a game this modern these days because they're not like Vanguard where those don't make any sense at all. Those are actually realistic things you can do with modern firearms these days, so I won't get into that, but it's just sad to see it's so locked behind so much grinding. Because I've played with the M5A1. I already have like 100 and something kills with it because that's my favorite all-around weapon. It's literally good in close combat, far combat. You do short bursts. You can pick people off from a distance. And I only have like 3 attachments unlocked. I have like the 9mm or whatever SMG conversion kit. I have a red dot sight attachment that I unlocked for it, and a long heavy barrel, and maybe a grip, and that's it. And I still have to get hundreds of more kills and play the game constantly just to get the basic kit for the game. And I gotta hand it to Call of Duty at least. You unlock things like every match. You know, every time you leveled up your weapon, you got a new attachment or some new perk ability, and it was neat. I'm only going off Modern Warfare 2019 for that, but I wish they kind of went in that way in terms of how fast you level up your weapon, just so you actually have the choice to get those weapons done. Now, that's all I'm going to talk about for weapons, because, again, I don't have too much experience with them, because so much of it's locked. But I'm going to go with one of my number one, and this is just like a fanboyism complaint about 2042. I remember hearing in multiple interviews and a few YouTube videos that the revive animation was supposed to be a placeholder. Hell, they said even the anti-aircraft reload animation was a placeholder because it looked like it was like the Panzerfaust shot in Battlefield 5 where you just threw away one and picked up a new one. I didn't know if that gun was like a single shot kind of missile in real life or they based it off something like that, but it looked weird. And having your classic Battlefield 4 style defibrillator animation was pretty sad to see in 2042 because Battlefield 5's revive mechanic was overhauled to be like cinematic and amazing, and I really wish they like kept that style of revive for 2042. Imagine you know, it's gonna sound weird explaining, but it's just something in Battlefield 5 was amazing. The squad revive was probably a little overpowered when you think about it, but it's still in 2042. It's just, it's cool to watch you revive one of your down teammates, and you're like, you're not down yet, soldier. You actually like made sure he was all right. You flipped him around, checked him for wounds, and then you tossed him up and he was revived. Or if you were a medic, you literally grabbed onto him and ejected the needle into there, and it was like very, your focus was on the soldier instead of you doing this like defibrillator animation from like you could make in 15 minutes in Blender if you had the assets pre-made, and then clear, clear, and it was like very basic. Like if you were in the first person animation, it was just and he was revived. And he was, 6 feet over the left of you, but you managed to revive him somehow. And imagine if they had that in Battlefield 5 style revive mechanic with the medic, where you literally like clear and you got on his chest and it looked like a fucking movie. It was maybe overdone for Battlefield 5, but it felt cool when you did it. It incentivized you to want to keep doing that to your teammates. And it's hard to when you get that basic animation school style revive from Battlefield 4 and 3 and hell even 1, where they just went with the needle and they were revived. It was sad to see all that just thrown away, because even when you played the World War II maps or the factions, like I was a German guy, we were running around in the future maps and we had the rule set where you could revive people, because in 2042 there was no revive mechanic at all. But they still had it in the game just in case you turned it on. Your dude pulled out a needle and stuck it in the guy, except he was on the floor and I was playing the crouch animation and he just stuck it in the air and took it out and the dude was revived. There was no complex cool animation to incentivize you to like revive people like that. I don't know. It's just a personal thing, because it was like the coolest thing to do to make sure my squad was alive. I got the cool animation and I just did whatever I could to help us keep pushing forward. And going back to the squad play, it was so much better in 5. I don't know if it was because of the compact map design or something, but Conquest in 5 was always cool. You always had a myriad of 6 or 7 or 10 people running around, rushing at an objective while the other team was defending their objective. I'm thinking of Aerodrome as an example in Battlefield 5, where they were staying inside of the where all the airplanes were, the air hangar, and you were outside pushing from D to C flag, and everyone was just fighting to the death for it. Even with tanks going back and forth, just pushing back and forth, the tank had to go back and heal, or else he'd explode, and lose it, and that's when, like, that was the desperate push you needed to get into the area. It was cool like that. In Battlefield 2042, I don't really feel that. I don't know if it's because the game's new and everyone's still learning the mechanics and stuff, but all the air support flying around, they're doing their own thing, just killing people. Tanks are over there just killing people from a mile away. They got unlimited ammo. I'm segueing into the vehicle rant now because I loved the mechanic in Battlefield 5. I think that's what balanced weapons. The vehicles in Battlefield was having a limited ammo system and dedicated supply restation spots to let your guys resupply and stay out of the battle for a while, because tanks run out of ammo. Soldiers run out of ammo. Why do tanks have unlimited ammo in Battlefield games? It's really dumb. You have a stupid guy. Now, this is just a personal rant because, again, I'm a pleb. I hate being killed by helicopters and stuff. This is why I get pissed off and go vehicle, like, destroy crazy when I play Battlefield 4, where there's some douchebag getting 80 kills a match in his little bird, and the only reason why he stayed alive was because the cooldown on his stupid flares were just long enough to keep himself in the air and heal. And he would just constantly shoot unlimited rockets at us because it would take 4 seconds to cool down. You get 4 more rockets, and he just seamlessly just cover and pepper the battlefield with explosive rounds all over the place and just go fucking ham. Now, props to him for flying that thing well while shooting, but it's not fun when he completely carpet bombs the fucking objective and we have to spawn all the way back at the home base because he has limited ammo. I ran out of rockets trying to take him down because everyone else is too stupid to take him down, or he's able to dodge their missiles and my missiles at the same time. It's just a horrible balancing mechanic to me personally. I didn't really have that problem in 5 because once the tank shot 25 shots, or if they got the vehicle upgrade thingy where they can hold 10 extra rounds, they had to go back and resupply, or we were able to do enough damage to him to the point where he was incentivized to go back and resupply because he took permanent damages to the tank. In Battlefield 2042, you can still break your the turret in your tank or the wheels in your tank and cripple your vehicle, but as long as you didn't get hit for 10 seconds, you automatically fixed it and you automatically slowly healed to 100%. There was no self. You didn't have to take the time to repair your tank, even though it was a lazy animation in Battlefield 5. It was just a twisting little wrench wheel, at least you had to do it. You didn't just have to keep moving and stay out of combat and magically heal yourself while still having limited bullets. In order to fully repair your tank in 5, you had to go back to a supply station where they had, like, literally it was like modeled after like ammo. There were tank powered giant shells there. You had like gas, propane. They had whatever you needed in that station to fully repair and put together your tank so you can get back into combat. That was cool. If they had something like that with the helicopters and the tanks for like back in your spawn to get them out of combat for a while, to give some of the soldiers some breathing room to push, it would be nice, because then it would take real squad work where you would have to communicate with your other like helicopter buddies, because they would usually have 3 or 4 helicopters on each side, where they would have one guy control C. Oh shit, he ran low on ammo or he needs to go heal. Other guy comes in after being healed to come, fight him. That's where you'd have to actually strategize and make sure they keep that area under constant like air superiority. With this, you just have all 3 helicopters causing a clusterfuck on top of the building because they can. Because you're already fighting the soldiers on the ground and they're just sitting there shooting rockets at you, unlimited rockets at you, with a 5-second cooldown because they can. It's a whole myriad of problems that I have with this, and I thought they would have built off of 5 and made a modern rendition of it. And they didn't. Man, I've been talking for a long time, but this is because this is nothing what I expected it to be. It's still kind of fun, but anything could be fun when you play with friends. But I played by myself for a while. I had a good time being Angel, throwing down mobile supply units and reviving them with medic crates and ammo supplies and armor and all that stuff. We didn't win any breakthrough matches because we didn't have enough people doing that, and they just had better vehicle players. But it's still cool to see the Cyclones flying around. If the game's still new enough where everyone wants to fly in there and not avoid it because they want to see what it's like to be in the tornado before they die, because it does kill you. It's just all over the place. And hopefully, and I hate to say this because that's like the one word I overuse on every channel I have on YouTube, hopefully they'll fix this in the future with some new things you can do. It'd be cool to see Battlefield Portal to have these features where you could resupply your vehicles, because I would dedicatingly make a server where it would play like that, and I think it would be very rewarding instead of people going on power trips. I'm surprised I ranted on that specific section for so long. I thought I'd be ranting on the animation for a lot longer, but I can get over that to a degree. I just think it would have been cool for them to take the time to take the day of animation work for your soldier to do that, because it was cool to watch your fallen soldier get back up in a very, I hate to say the word intimate because it sounds wrong, but you got to watch him get up and look and feel better, I don't know. Those are my myriad of problems I have right now with the release window of the game. I don't know what else to say other than there better be these season passes better have like 6 or 7 weapon drops, because that'll keep the normal 2042 game mode alive for a while with things to do, other than the fact that you have to grind for 800 years for each weapon's attachments. But the post-launch better look better, and hopefully they fix the problem with performance too, because I want to use my 3080 to its maximum degree. DLSS isn't fixing that, because it can't even utilize all of the GPU, not even all the CPU. I don't know what happened. You'd think with 5, they built off 5's engine. Boom, it works. I don't know if they used the old version of 4, because technically 4 is Frostbite 3, and they maybe built off of that for some stupid reason. I don't know. It's just so confusing. Everything about this is so confusing. It's weird to think that Vanguard launched in a more stable state. Weird. And that game comes out. I mean, they have 2 or 3 year development cycles too, but they had to collab with the people who made the engine and stuff like that. And they have to integrate it into Warzone. I don't know how they're pulling that off. We had like 5 studios on 2042, and they cut Battlefield 5's live service like in half to even just keep working on this game. What happened? I don't know. I'm confused. What do you guys think? If you guys actually made it to the end of this rant, I want to hear what your counter arguments to this are if you disagree on any of the things I have here. And I would like to thank you for listening to me, even if you skip through parts you didn't like. I'm going to try and section this off into bits and pieces as I can so you can visually watch to each complaint that you want. But it's going to be hard because I was all over the place in this video. But again, I criticize the game because I want it to be good. It doesn't feel as good as it should have been when it launched, especially the fact that they gave it, 1, a delay, and 2, they killed their other game's development life cycle to work on it longer. I don't know. It sucks that I'm going to play it, though, and I got sucked into pre-ordering it. I'm a sucker. Anyway, I'll see you guys later. Sergeant X is reporting off of duty to go on duty and play the game some more, to criticize it some more, I guess. Anyway, I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching again. And subscribe if you haven't, because hopefully I'll make more content. Anyway, bye.